Good afternoon. It's always a delight to be speaking here. I'm going to talk about 3 lies that dominate our lives. We talk about dissent, right? So there are 3 things that I'm unhappy and angry about. 3 things, right? Number 1, my unhappiness and dissent against truth. Number 1, my dissent against history. And number 3, my dissent against access. Let me explain this to you. My biggest anger is how we are passive about taking terminology. जी कि कोई उठ के आ गया कल और मुझे कह दिया आप तो राइट हो, तो मैंने मान लिया मैं राइट हूं, ठीक है ना. किसी ने कहा कि प्रोग्रेसिव मैं हूं, आप रिग्रेसिव हो, मैंने मान लिया वो भी, that is my label. So my first dissent is against these truths. And the first truth that I want to dissent against is the phrase left liberal. I come from Calcutta, I grew up in a communist state. मैंने जिंदगी में कभी लेफ्ट को लिबरल नहीं देखा. आज तक मैंने किसी लेफ्टिस्ट को नहीं देखा जो लिबरल है. So this left liberal is the first truth that I want to dissent against. And I want to dissent against labels being put by somebody else. और ये तो हमारे देश का तो ट्रेडिशन ही है, सालों से चलता आ रहा है, सदियों से चलता आ रहा है. कोई हमारे हिस्ट्री इतिहास लिख देता है तो हम उसी को स्वॉलो कर लेते हैं. We are an extremely absorbent, extremely plural, extremely accommodative. तो हमारे बारे में कोई झूठ भी बोलता है उसको भी हम accommodate कर लेते हैं. So my first dissent is against refusal to accept lies being told about you, labels being cast on you. Who has the prerogative in our country to give labels about who's right, who's left, who's liberal, who's plural, who's secular, who's not? And why have we given a bunch of people the right and the prerogative to give these labels and hand out these certificates? Right? So that's my first dissent. My second dissent is about history. Now I hear many people mention the Samuel Johnson quote, many of you would have heard it, which says, patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. It's whole head, thrown around. Yeah, the patriotism is the last refuge. Patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. Therefore, if you sing the national anthem, tum to scoundrel hi ho gaye. Must be a scoundrel, right? Okay. Now, I want to ask you this question. There are a lot of intelligent people here. Tell me, I come from Bengal, okay? And this man who wrote this quote, okay, I'm an Indian, I come from Bengal. This man who wrote this quote, Samuel Johnson, comes from a colonial history where his civilization was never conquered. They only went and conquered somebody else, right? They only went and tortured somebody else. They only used their patriotism to affect somebody else's country, else's culture, else's civilization, else's patriotism, right? What kind of idiots are we, and what kind of an idiot am I? Generations before me, and because I'm Bengali, I'll mention a few. From Khudiram Bose to Prafullo Chaki to Subhash Chandra Bose gave blood for my freedom, and I am a moron in 2016 hearing somebody else saying patriotism is the last refuge of scoundrel. Think about it. I want to dissent against this kind of history. I want to dissent against somebody telling me that my patriotism is the refuge of a scoundrel, and therefore I must be a scoundrel. Right? And I also must say, I refuse to let my patriotism be defined or my nationalism be defined by anything, including 9 o'clock news. Nobody should have the right to define what my patriotism and my nationalism is. My third big dissent, right? My third big dissent is a dissent against access, right? In our country, access is the most important thing. In fact, in almost an interesting way, even the creation of this event solves an access problem. Because when I was, for many years, I always used to hear people say, in all these conclaves, some people are invited and some people are not. So there's an access problem. And that access is defined by a certain bunch of people. They are the ones who are able to organize things. They are the ones who are able to put people on a pedestal. So let me give you a short story on how my dissent began. And we're in Goa, so I must tell you this story. My dissent began a few years ago when I watched on YouTube a video of a man, and I'm a polite person, so I don't want to name names. A man wearing an orange shirt. Ramadhavji smiling at the statement that I'm a polite man. But anyway, I saw the YouTube video of a man in an orange shirt in an event in Goa, sitting on a stage like this with another man, and they were discussing how the difference between Swami Vivekananda and Hitler is 19-20 का फर्क होगा. ये थोड़ा सा फर्क है. So almost there, So I come from a Ramakrishna Mission tradition for 3 generations. There began my dissent. My dissent began from that point. And I want to end by telling you how I became a believer in karma also. Because 48 hours after that incident happened on a stage in Goa, one particular man wearing an orange shirt was arrested for a particular crime of dissenting ladies and gentlemen, dissenting against a particular young lady. But such is the nature of dissent. Such is the nature of dissent, ladies and gentlemen. Such is the nature of dissent. So these are my three dissenting points, and I just want to conclude by saying the work that me and people like Sanjeev Sanyal are doing, we want to transform. Yesterday also there was a man who came and told us that he's going to transform the way things are done in India. We're going to transform the way publication is done in India. We're going to transform the way contemporary history is written in India. We're going to transform the way we look at ourselves. Because if we don't learn to look at ourselves the way we want to look at ourselves, we will again be told how to look at us. Thank you.